Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to USA Global TV and Radio and our wonderful followers and viewers at E360 TV. I'm Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, and our show today is the 2023 World Jenny's Day Marathon. We just completed 3 hours, and if you're just joining us, we're so happy to have you with us. The way that this works is the social media platforms only let you stream for so long, so after a few hours, we have to switch to a new studio, and that's okay. It's transparent to you. You get a little bit of a break to get up and move around. So this event is actually a 24-hour event, which means we're live streaming, and then there's a gala that's taking place in London. And the founder and the creator of World Jenny's Day, Janetta Barry, she just signed off. It was 1 o'clock in the morning there in the United Kingdom, and she's taking a little bit of a breather as she's going to be back at her 8 a.m., our 3 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So what will you find in this hour? I am going to be joined by my dear friend, Mr. Red O'Loughlin. He's also one of our show hosts here at USA Global TV and Radio. He is the show host of The Wise Ones. He's also on Food and Our Emotions. He's one of our expert presenters on our Talking Heads platform. And he's the man that I can go to pretty much with anything that is reasonable. He will say yes. He's my book coach and publisher. He's helped me get 9 books published, all of them either Amazon #1 bestsellers or Amazon #1 new releases. And we're going to be talking about one of the books because we're focused on mental health wellness, celebrating that, and also longevity. So Red is a longevity expert and strategist, and he is our go-to guy here on this platform for anything health related. Welcome, Red O'Loughlin.
Thank you, Dr. Jacqueline. May I add, you look very stunning tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. You know what? That was quite an introduction. I was thinking of all the things you've done. It's pretty amazing, Red.
Yeah, and it's just in this one little area right over here. We got, tons of other things that we don't even talk about most of the time. And that's fine because we're really sharing what the audience needs to hear about. And on this particular day, World Jenny Day, mental health is #1 on the top of the list because that is something that I'm not going to say affects every single one of us. We all have those little bits of depression, anxiety, stress, but it doesn't really get to that level where we're saturated and we start having mental health issues. But some of us do. Some of us can successfully navigate through those and others cannot. And so it depends on where you're at in that tidal wave of emotions as to what can happen and what does happen.
Absolutely, Red. And for those people who don't know you, you're also a veteran and you're a distinguished Toastmaster. So you're an entrepreneur, you are an Amazon best-selling author, you have done quite a bit and you've seen quite a lot and you've met many people in your time. So I really appreciate that you're taking the time out of your day to be here today so we can talk about longevity, mental health, wealth. We're going to talk about listening. I like to start off with this book. And you know this book very well because you are intimately involved with it. Unfortunately, we can't see the green part because we're behind the green screen. But the title is Lady Ella Listens in the Baobab National Game Park. And the reason why this book is so important is that Janetta and her family were consultants on this book because they know all about the Baobab National Game Park. They know about Africa. And also, part of Jenna's family is featured in this book. I'm going to just share here. So all the characters on the book cover and in the book represent real people who are elevated listeners. And so Janetta is an elevated listener, and so is her daughter-in-law, Ashley. So Neil and Ashley are the park rangers in the book. And then Janetta's granddaughter, Arabella Jennifer Steedman, is in this photo here, and she's actually going to be joining us tomorrow on World Jenny's Day. She's going to share some of her art with us. So that is super special. So the whole point of this book is learning how to listen at an elevated level. And Lady Ella, the ladybug, flies around over from where she was at the ocean, saving ocean animals. And she goes to Africa, to the game park, to teach the animals how to communicate more effectively. So Red, I want to go over to you, because in your work with longevity and the books that you've written to help people get educated and get knowledge, where do you find listening to be a priority in terms of having your mental health? Do you think it's important?
I think it's extremely important, but it's one of those things that we're never ever taught. You start in elementary school and you're taught this and that, but you're not taught about manners. You're not taught about respect. You're not taught about other things. And your parents usually are left with that, or some other teacher. But when you start getting into financial, balancing a checkbook, knowing when credit is good, knowing how to, we have so many things in our lives, even just health in general. We have so many things in our lives we're never taught, unless you want to go out and learn something on your own. It's not something that comes easily. And I'm sure that you can attest. I mean, you've been through a number of different schools over time, and it's never part of the curriculum. It's never part of anything that's really taught. If you happen to bounce into a person occasionally that might know something, but I was surprised how much information is available to the public. And unless you go search for it, you never know it's there. And part of the reason I'm saying that was, back in I'm going to say 10, 15 years ago, maybe. My wife and I got involved with a MLM, multi-level marketing program, where we were selling a particular product. And I was invited to a weekend training seminar. I said, well, okay, why not? And I went in there and I was blown away by the kinds of things that they were teaching. And I started thinking, and I'm sure you've probably seen the same thing when you worked in industry, that you're taught, how to be a better marketer, how to be a better advertiser, how to be a better supervisor. But everything that you're being taught how to do better is for the company. May rub off a little bit on you, but most of the time it's for the company. Would you not agree?
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. And I feel like the whole reason that I started focusing on teaching people how to listen at an elevated level was because I didn't feel like I had been listened to. And I have autoimmune diseases, and you know this because you've taught me so much. But many times these illnesses or the diseases that we have are partly because we've repressed feelings, or is that the right word, repressed?
Yeah, in this case, I think it's an acceptable term, yes.
Thank you. So we've pushed our feelings down, and then our body reacts. And when this happens long enough, then illness shows up. And on your Talking Heads episodes, and even on Food and Our Emotions and some of the other shows, you talk about stress and how stress can lead to mental illness as well.
Well, we're never taught about stress. We're not taught about how to deal with stress, how to manage stress. Something as simple as a simple smile can do a lot. And the main reason a smile or a laugh or something else can be so effective is that you have an emotion generating from up here in the brain. And as it comes down, you can see the face change from being maybe happy to sad to anguish to whatever. But you can't have two thoughts in the brain at the same time, especially if they're opposite each other. So if you look at the brain, it's sending signals down to the face, to the shoulders, to the body that are going to exhibit whatever that thought you have. If you're happy, you're going to be a happy body. Do the happy dance, do all sorts of stuff. But if you're sad, if you're angry, if you have anxiety over something, you think your body's going to react the same way. But I teach this in a lot of the classes that I give. Uh, let's say that you're driving, there's a short light, you're a little behind schedule, and you get there and you're 4 cars behind, and all of a sudden the light changes, but the first car's not moving. And if that first car doesn't move when that light goes, you're more than likely going to get stuck for another 2 minutes through the cycle. And sure enough, the car doesn't move. The second car doesn't move fast enough. And now there's still another car in front of you and you haven't gone anywhere. Um, that stress now is going to be with you the rest of the day, regardless of what you do. But let's just say for a minute that you attended one of my lectures and you remembered that I said smile. Well, when you smile, you're forcing muscles to go in the opposite direction. That signal is going back to the brain, and the brain has to accept it because that's what the muscles are telling it to do. And so that smile is going to it's going to cut that stress event right there. It's going to stop it. Because generally speaking, when you're stressed, one of the things you want to do is remove the stressor, whatever that stress is. If it's an offending odor, if it's a noise, if it's a person, your spouse, your boss, a close friend, whatever it may happen to be, your child, there are a lot of things that can stress you out. The same thing that happens yesterday may not be any big deal, but today the other things are weighing on you, and that same event happened, and then you blow off the top of your head. But anyway, if you can change the course of that thought process from falling down your face to forcing it back up into the brain, now all of a sudden the brain doesn't know what to do because it's having this happy face that's coming up into the brain, all because you smiled. And it doesn't have to be a genuine smile, it just has to be a physical smile. Now, laughing is even a bigger one than that, because laughing is actually a whole body response. You're almost to the level of getting endorphins created. But you just pick, and it doesn't matter whether it's a real laugh or a fake laugh. Like if I do, it doesn't matter how that laugh is done. You're taking the body and you're forcing that emotion out of its primary path. And so laughing is good, that kind of smile, but you do something a little different and you don't allow that stress to come down. So now you get up to the light, car goes, you're on the highway, boom, and 2 miles down the road, you don't even remember being stuck at that light because that stressor is no longer with you. But had you not done something to remove that stress, now all of a sudden I'm looking at my watch, I think I can almost make it on. You're adding more stress to your day. So stress management is a major player. Stress creates cortisol, epinephrine, norepinephrine, a lot of hormones. And you can usually tell if you have a few extra pounds that are right around the middle of your gut, that is where cortisol, a stress hormone, loves to store fat. Its prime directive in life is to store fat. And so if you have that little extra pounds here, there, and yonder, chances are maybe stress was putting part of that on. Now, obviously, diet and other things. It's not saying you can't be skinny as a rail and be stressed out. You certainly can. There are a lot of people that don't put on extra weight because of it. But sometimes it's the foods we eat. And I know you're probably familiar with some of them. But if you look at, typically speaking, most of the time, B vitamins are the ones that really and truly create a lot of problem. And there's a lot of research showing that vitamin B deficiency, your B1, your B6, B7, B12, all of these things can add up when you have a shortage of them for a long enough period of time. You end up with depression, you end up with anxiety, mood swings. And if this thing becomes constant, now you end up with severe problems because all of a sudden what used to be the norm, you're no longer getting that B complex in the body, and it's being overpowered by time, by events, and by a gradual buildup of depression. And so from a food perspective, not eating a balanced nutritional diet, choosing the right kinds of foods. But I mean, there's more to it than just the situation with that. Zinc and magnesium and iron. I mean, there's just, you go down the omega-3s, other minerals in there, vitamin D, lots of amino acids. There are so many things that if we're eating a nutritionally balanced diet, chances are that level of depression, mood swings, anxiety is going to be greatly reduced because those B vitamins, especially B1 and B3 more than all the other ones, have a chance to get in there and soak in and kind of calm down that level of the brain. I've told you many, many times that vitamin B12 deficiency mimics Alzheimer's. And that's one of the first things on what do you call it, gerontologist will give his patient is a shot of B12. See if that breaks them out. But B12, depending on how you take it, if you take it as a pill and it gets into the stomach, it can't survive the stomach acid. So you have to take it under the tongue and have it go into the body subliminally.
Red, once again, so much incredible information. By the way, you can tune into Red's Talking Heads, which are his episodes are Thursday at noon Pacific time, at 2 p.m. Central time, and 3 p.m. Eastern time, which is 8 p.m. British Summer Time. So I just want to peel back a little bit about what you said. So if we are experiencing stress, which this is a very stressful time of life in many ways, when you're just watching the news, sometimes it's even difficult to watch because it's overwhelming. So we start to put on weight around our middle, which explains a few things for me. And then when we're under stress, maybe we're eating more than we should be, or we're not eating the balanced diet. We're just reaching for whatever it is. Maybe we're eating packaged foods. So when we're going through the stress, would you say that these things that we reach for, the food choices that we make, help us because they're giving us that short-term comfort? Or are you thinking that it's more of a hindrance because when you're already under stress and then you're depriving yourself of something, how does that work?
Well, how many times has something just as simple as a cookie, a nice sweet, you're in a normal mode, you take and have something that's sweet and you feel good. And we do this over and over and over times in our lives. And it's not that it's something that we learn to crave certain foods. We have our early childhood experiences, and our body goes through a variety of ups and downs over times. And sometimes we find that, okay, I'm really stressed out today. I come home and I have a dessert. Maybe later on, I'm more mature. I come home, I have a beer, a glass of wine. I come home and I have now half a pie and a glass of wine and a couple of beers. It doesn't matter. We end up with these little habits. And maybe our favorite food instead of steak is pizza. And now we're putting more carbohydrates in our system. We're adding stress to everything else. But sometimes ice cream and cookies will take care of everything that we need. We just need, a small bag of potato chips. You take a few, thank you very much. We're happy. We're contented. And that becomes a new comfort zone. All of a sudden, I was stressed, and the potato chips, my goodness, how well they taste. And so we can be satisfied from any number of foods, and some may be totally different from others depending on what your culture is, what your food cravings are. But from an emotional perspective, we want something that's fast to satisfy our urgent, our sudden needs. And so we want something, and pizza, ice cream, a lot of those things, boom, just do that. Now, with you, I'm sure that an alternative might be, let me get dressed, go to the gym. Yeah, I'll work it out for a couple hours. Is that a fair statement?
You know it.
And so instead of relying on that ice cream and cookies and a couple glasses of wine, you go work out. That's a great stress reliever, one of the best out there. You do it on a regular basis. You're helping yourself in a lot of ways, more so than just stress. And stress is one byproduct of that entire thing. But now you come back home, you're not stressed. You don't have that immediate sudden urge to go in there and find out how many cookies are left. Where's, I thought I had another bag of chips over there. You have a different approach to life because you're no longer allowing the stress to drive the train. You've taken your stress management and put it into some level of cardiovascular, some level of weightlifting, stretching. There's so many different things we can do. And sometimes it may just be go out, let's walk for a half hour, 45 minutes. It doesn't have to be something significant exercise. But with the sun shining, the blue skies, a few clouds, the birds chirping, a little breeze in your hair, although I don't really have that experience anymore. But these things help settle down. I mean, you just get out that fresh air, and it's amazing. I mean, during COVID, just going out for a nice walk was so pleasant. And it's just, we need to find out what is another calming mechanism let's assume that you're eating reasonably well. Uh, let's assume that you're eating reasonably well. Um, but if you're not, that might be a place to look. What are you eating? And generally, one of the I'm not going to say easy because it's not easy, but one of the best things you can do is keep a food journal. What did you eat? What time did you eat it? And was there some underlying issue that was with you? Now, you can be just fatigued, tired, uh, just talk to my sister, whatever it may happen to be. And now I just had, 3.5 ounces of potato chips in that little bag that they come in, whatever it may happen to be. Or you happen to have, I really need an ice cream float, a root beer float, that old A&W root beer float. That used to be so soothing way back when. But there are things that we do because of habit, but sometimes we don't see the habit because it's not written down in front of us. So maybe one of the first things to do is just get yourself a little book, a little pad of paper, and just keep track of what you eat and what you feel like. So if you get up in the morning and you typically have, scrambled eggs and bacon and some orange juice and toast, put that down. Okay, that's fine. Tired because you didn't get a good night's sleep, just put that down. And then you keep this up for a couple, 3 or 4 or 5 weeks, and you're going to see a pattern. Maybe you had a bad day at work. Maybe the traffic was extra heavy. Doesn't matter what the situation is, write it down. And what was your response as far as eating went? That would be a good place to start because now you have a history. And if you need to talk to somebody about something, now you can show it in front of them and say, here's what's going on. And I came home and, got chewed out by my boss today. I didn't deserve it. Somebody, it doesn't matter. You write it down and it becomes part of your history, part of your eating habits, and part of what's my go-to when things are like that. And yeah, okay, fine. So you have 2 6 packs of beer and you go to bed. It is what it is. Write it down, because it's one of those things that if you don't capture it, nobody else is going to know.
I like that idea, Red. Thank you. Keeping a food journal, so to speak. And, we're talking today, we're on World Jenny's Day Marathon. I want to just encourage people to go ahead and scan this QR code so that you can donate. Janetta Barry and her team have put so much work and effort into this marathon and the gala that's taking place in London. So if you'd like to donate a pound, a dollar, whatever it is, it's all appreciated. And it goes to World Jenny's Day. So, something that I wanted to mention, because all of us have things happen to them in life, and then we may or may not realize that it's affecting us. And so, I'll just be very candid. You were very helpful, you and your wife, when my mom was sick. And then when she passed away, and you said something that really stood out for me, and for anybody else who's out there going through this, is I share with you, my dad died, 11 years ago, and I thought I got through it fairly well. And you said this was going to be very different because they were both going to be gone. And you were so right about that. And I find, for me, sometimes I don't even want to get up. I mean, sometimes I'm getting up at 8 o'clock because I just don't want to get up. I'm in the house where my mom and I lived, and I went through her closets yesterday and I saw her coat with her little gloves sticking out, and I just started bawling my eyes out. But I know that it's a process. And the reason I bring this up is I know that what I'm feeling is part of the process. So I'm not saying to myself, well, you really need to go see someone, because I'm processing. And I guess there gets to a point where somebody could go and see someone. I don't know. It's different for every person. But I think if we are real with ourselves, when something traumatic does happen, we have emotions and we have to process them. We have to at least identify that they're there, as opposed to saying, I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. Everything's fine. What do you think?
Well, remember the example I gave you, being stuck behind a light and you
Mm.
smiled to eradicate. Well, the light was causing an emotional stress. Okay, a memory of something you're seeing is causing an emotional stress. And that emotional stress can go from here to here in a half a second. And all of a sudden, the tears come, that heavy heart feeling, the shoulders go. There's just so many things that you can feel, and the tears are natural. That's just part of our process. but that same smile can truncate that emotion. And so I think about my mom dying, my dad dying. I'm the oldest of 9 kids. 6 of us are still living. And sometimes a memory will come in. And my go-to thing is to smile. If I think about my mom and I can just barely just start feeling those little I have to put that smile on, because now I'm trying to change my response from thinking of my mom's life, things that happened, things that she said, whatever it was, that may give me a key to turn the engine for grieving, to leave that engine off and maybe develop a different feeling, so that if every time that I'm thinking about her death or something about her that would typically manifest itself with some kind of physical emotional response, if I can shut that physical emotional response off with a smile, uh, then maybe that might be a way. Now, see what happens in the brain is that one of the benefits of the brain is it never forgets. But it's 24/7, no matter what goes on, it's filed up there. It's right there in the middle of your brain. If something's really emotional, it's going to be filed, so easy to access. However, another major benefit of the brain is the fact that it cannot tell real from imagined. And so when people are really and truly working on becoming Olympic champions and best professional ball players or whatever they are, there's a lot of not emotion, there's a lot of mental gymnastics that goes on with them convincing themselves that they're the best in the world at whatever. Doesn't matter what's out there, they are the best. Take that same approach to your grieving, whatever that grieving process may be, and maybe, okay, I you start with a smile. And then you start thinking about your mom. You think about those good times you had when you were down at the beach, when you took a trip, when you went over to meet Uncle so and so. And all of a sudden, now your brain is thinking, okay, well, those are pretty happy occasions. And I'm thinking about my mom, and my mom is dead, but it's not causing an emotional floodgate to open up. And so you're tricking your brain into toning down the level of emotional response, because you're picking and choosing the times that you want it to come in and be a positive uh, response back to that negative stress of the death of your mom. And so I noticed this. I guess my dad died. My brother died many years ago. My dad died, 2004. And I wasn't into this particular kind of event, but all of a sudden I started learning a little bit, well, hey, that's kind of interesting. Let me try that again. And over time, I've kind of found out about it. And then as I started studying it, speaking on it, writing books about it, I find there's a lot of information out there. And it's just a matter of training ourselves, just like with learning how to listen, learning how to change the grieving process response to be something very, very positive. I'm sure you've seen people who are very intimately connected to family members, and they can stand up there and give a eulogy like nothing's happened. It's not their kid, but they did such a good job of it. And that is separating yourself mentally from the event, but being able to be part of that event to pass on information. And so that's one way. But as you have a mental health disorder, it's not that much different than grieving, because there's something in the brain causing an emotional response in the body. And that, whether it's anxiety or depression or half a dozen other things that might be there, that becomes a real, not perceived, but real threat to that particular individual. And if they're not getting support from a friend, accountability partner, doesn't matter where it's coming from, then every day just becomes that extra piece of straw on the camel's back. At some point in time, that camel's back is going to break because you put too much straw on it.
Watch that straw. I like that. That's a good analogy. Very good analogy. When we think about food and our emotions, which is one of the shows that you and I co-host, and you talked about some different types of food that people will turn to make themselves feel better, happier for a short amount of time. And I've done it. And I know you and I don't have the same ones that we like, but that's okay. But there are ways that we can still eat our favorite foods without having them be there to suppress our emotions. And you talk about a salad plate, or you talk about having a small piece. Can you tell our audience more about that?
When you look at health in general, you look at aging, if you take animals and you cut back about 30%, about one third of their normal food intake that they've been given all their life, all of a sudden they live longer, they look younger, they're healthier than their peers that continue to eat the same full amount the rest of their lives. It's called caloric restriction. And on humans, nutritionists tell us that we need 1,500 calories per pound per day, or whatever it may happen to be. There's a nice little 15 calories per pound per day in order to maintain body weight. And so they're sitting there going back and forth, and they're saying, okay, it's 3,500 calories equals a pound. If you go over there and you exercise 3,500 calories, you're going to lose a pound. If you eat 3,500 extra, the numbers are not necessarily as accurate as people want. But the same thing applies as we're eating. We have a little switch that's up here in the brain that's connected to the gut. And as you're eating, what's going to happen is at a certain level, the gut is going to say, ah, I am really and truly happy right this minute. I'm satiated. It's only going to last about a quarter of a second. And if you're looking for it, you'll find it. You'll find it so easily. But we've been conditioned by our parents, by the price of our food, by a number of things that I want to eat everything on the plate. Well, why don't you change the size of your plate? Instead of a large plate, go down to a salad plate. You can certainly finish everything on that salad plate, but I've been at times where I have my salad plate there, and all of a sudden I get literally a third, a halfway through, and ding, 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 ding. That little communication between my gut saying I've had enough and my brain saying I'm satisfied for eating. I can literally take that plate, push it aside, and walk away. And I've done that. But sometimes if you're at a restaurant and you're spending $45 for a nice meal, uh, you don't feel like wanting taking it home in a doggy bag. There's a lot of people around there, and they're still having. We do things differently because we're in different places. But when you're at your own house, try a salad plate. Fill it up with whatever you want, because over time you're going to learn what you can put on there easily and eat, and what you can't, what's going to overload things. But that's a good way to start. You're forcing yourself not to put so much on there. Don't go back for seconds. You may love to go back for seconds. If you want seconds, wait 30 minutes and then go back and see if you still have any level of hunger for that thing. A lot of times we eat, especially in the mornings, because we're dehydrated, or it's a habit. We wake up every morning and we're going to have Cheerios because that's all I've had my entire life. I've always had it half hour after waking up. Becomes a habit. Are you really hungry, or are you dehydrated? It may be that you could drink a glass of water, 8, 10, 12, 15 ounces, whatever it might happen to be, and that'll wipe out that hunger for hours. You get to work, okay, maybe late afternoon, late morning snack. Do you really need that snack, or maybe it's that cup of coffee or tea, or maybe I just need to run up down a couple of stairways just to get a little exercise, clear my brain, so to speak, get rid of a little bit of that fog that might be seeping back in. But there's so many things we do by habit that if there are alternatives, and the salad plate, I think, is a great alternative. What do you think?
I think it definitely is. I think that I'm going to, what did I tell you before? I was giving myself a deadline as to when I was going to stop eating the way I'm eating, but I'm eating one meal that's incredibly healthy, and then I'm eating another meal that's not healthy. So my unhealthy meal is a toasted bagel with butter and peanut butter. So bad.
Well, the peanut butter is not bad. The butter is not bad. It really truly isn't. It's one of the actually probably more reasonably balanced fats, because it's got your omega-3 to omega-6 ratio is almost 1 to 1, which is ideal for a fat. Part of the American, the standard American diet is the fact that the omega-6 fatty acids dominate our diet. and up to about a 4-to-1 ratio between omega-6 to omega-3. That's in the range, but you start getting 20-to-1, 30-to-1, 40-to-1 or more, that omega-6 becomes an inflammatory processor in the body. Now you're starting to get inflammation at the cellular level, and chronic low-level cellular inflammation is the genesis of about 90% or more of all disease. So if you can shut down that inflammatory stressor, your choice of foods, and maybe what you do is you go more with the omega-3s where you have a balanced, healthy fat regimen. There's nothing wrong with butter. There's so many different myths out there on all sorts of things. If you want to know more about it, just put in myth, butter, health, longevity, and then read both sides of the story. Where you follow the money, who is making the money out of whatever may happen to be there. And there's so many things that we learn later on. Well, I wish somebody would have told me that earlier, because it might have made a difference. But we end up in a situation that we want to make a change, but we are unable to make a change. We've already gone too far down a particular path. I did a little section on Talking Heads talking about the difference in the way we treat cancer. And one of the typical way we treat it as a genetic disorder. There's something wrong with the DNA. We're going to treat it with chemo. We're going to treat it with radiation. We're going to treat it with a number of other protocols. But if you look at a simple disease being type 4 pancreatic cancer, the 5-year survival rate is about 4%. But if you treat it as a metabolic disease, which cannot be done in the United States because of the way the FDA and the medical industry approve standard approaches to medical care, when treated as a metabolic disease in Istanbul or Cairo or somewhere else in the world where they treat diseases where the metabolism is the source of the problem before it gets to the DNA, now you're looking at about a 96% survival rate for something that treated differently is about a 4%. And you say, well, why didn't somebody tell me before? Because follow the money. Where's all the money being spent at? It's being spent on genetic disorder, dysfunction research. And there may be occasion down the road where this becomes the norm. But again, if you don't do some research onto things, you'll never know.
Sorry, I wasn't sure you're finished. Okay. Something else I want to just have you touch on, because it's really an extension of what you're talking about, and it's another area that you are truly an expert. More and more people are being diagnosed with some type of dementia or Alzheimer's. My mother had dementia, and in order to better understand it, I know you've written a book, and I don't know if you have your book with you, but I'd love for you to share a little bit about the contents of your books, because they literally fall into the longevity category as well as mental health wealth.
I have every other one just about except that one right now. I have it downstairs. No, I don't.
Well, just pick one of the other ones, because I think
Well,
they're all in alignment with it.
but I did a presentation this week. I recorded it early for Houston West Chamber of Commerce. It'll actually be aired on Wednesday. I typically do a live presentation, have been doing that for years. But one of the things that we've talked about in the past, and you may not remember the exact definition, but I'm sure you probably remember the term. When I talk about autophagy, does that ring a bell with you?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay, autophagy, a term that most of us never hear. Uh, I'm sure you probably have heard more than a few times. You really need to eat 4 to 6 really small meals a day. How many times have we heard that? That's standard nutritional advice. But what happens in the cell is that the cell operates at a certain level. It's got its own programs, it's doing its things. And with any process, there's going to be a little bit of waste generated. There's going to be some level of stress added to the situation. You may end up having a little bit of mutation on a particular DNA. There's a lot of things going on down there in the cell at the mitochondrial level. Okay, so if autophagy is allowed to have, and it's a normal process, it goes on whether you want it to or not. But This light switch on the autophagy process doesn't start until about 15 hours of not eating. And so you fast intermittently, or you just fast for that day. And around 12, 14, 16, 18 hours, somewhere in there, depending on your body, your metabolism, your exercise regimen, your stress management, a lot of factors. But let's just use 15 hours as a number. Around there, light switch gets turned on, and magically autophagy starts. Now, what is autophagy? That's autophagy, autophagy, autophagy. Okay, think of it this way: the cell has accumulated a fair amount of trash. Let's, if I think about it even in a more broader instance, let's say Dr. Jacqueline's sitting on the couch. She's got her ice cream and she's got her glass of wine. She's watching TV. And in the meantime, during commercials, she's going through magazines and reading the newspapers. And over the course of a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, there's a big stack of magazines and newspapers over there, and maybe some extra ice cream containers and a few bottles here, there, and yonder. And if the trash people never show up, what happens to all that garbage, Dr. Jacqueline? It stays in the house, right?
Right. Yes.
Okay. But what happens in the cell is that autophagy is a normal process that, given enough time of not eating, you're going to bring the trash truck and drive it into the bloodstream. It's going to knock on the cell wall. You open it up and say, "You got any trash?" And you go over there, and the little guys inside your cells are going to have all this stuff bagged up, and they're going to throw it into the trash truck. Boom. Now you have a clean cell again. The next truck that drives up is a recycler. And they say, "What do you got in there for recycling?" And they say, "We got the," "Okay, fine, give me that, and I'll give you one of these." And what you're doing now is you're taking the stuff that is not trash. Your body actually labels, this is trash, this is recyclable. So this is recyclable. It goes to the recycle truck that's standing outside in your bloodstream next to your cell. And it's going to either give you the ingredients you need to make that recyclable molecule, enzyme, whatever it may happen to be, full and functional again, or it's going to give you replacement particles for it. And so now all of a sudden your cell is getting rejuvenated. The things that may have been interfering with that cell all along because it wasn't allowed breathing room is now able to breathe and relax, and it's got a clean environment. Now, autophagy kind of it doesn't, it starts incrementally at about 15 hours. So what shuts it down? Carbohydrates. You know, you have a piece of pizza, boom, it's off. It's all those trash trucks are thrown out of the body so fast you can't get rid of them. It's just gone. So autophagy needs time. So let's say you fast for 24 hours. And I'm talking about water only. There are some exceptions. I'm not going to go into those, but let's just water only fast. Okay, 24 hours later, my autophagy, instead of being at 1%, maybe is at 8 or 9 or 10%. Somewhere around 2 days to 4 days, 48 hours to 96 hours, autophagy is 100%. It's going every single place in the body it can possibly go. There's not a cell that's going to be missed because you are recycling everything that needs to be recycled. You're draining the swamp of all the trash that's in there. You now have a clean system. Now, generally speaking, I do a 72-hour fast every month. I've been doing it for years. That 72-hour fast usually turns into 96, 120, sometimes 200 hours. But I do a fast on a regular basis because that fast allows the autophagy process to get in there and clean your cells. Now, at about 72 hours, if the cells are generally pretty clean, the repairs are being done on schedule because when you're sleeping, you get good quality sleep. The DNA is being repaired properly because you've got the right recyclers in the cells. Your immune system is rebuilt from scratch. You basically got a full powered immune system after about 72 hours in autophagy. And so that becomes a major plus as far as your health goes. It also, in the downside of things, let's say that I'm 77 right now. In another 10, 20 years, that's going to put me at 87, 97 years of age. The age-related diseases are super critically, they just on up, because when you don't have autophagy cleaning things out, now all of a sudden dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, a lot of other issues creep in there. Now you compound it with diabetes, you compound it with cardiovascular disease, you compound it with hypertension. There are so many things that if you can keep the body healthy and clean, and I'm talking about the cells in the body here. We're also going to talk about the cells here, but these cells here are the same cells as everywhere else. You need the recyclers, you need the trash trucks, you need everything there to get rid of everything. Now, one of the beauties of the brain is that it operates. We have certain laws that happen to our bodies. I had a situation, maybe 3 years ago, where I had my left anterior descending artery clogged. It's called the widowmaker. It's about a 90% fatal event. However, my heart grew two brand new blood vessels, one across the front of the heart down to the blockage, one across the back of the heart down to the blockage. I had a, what do you call it, catheterization. Doctor's looking in there. They're following everything. I got two brand new veins. He's on the phone chatting with some doctor about doing a stent. They said, nope, don't need it. And so I have a DIY double bypass. But the brain operates the same way. The brain's even faster. There are 8 different molecules in vitamin E. You have 4 tocopherols and 4 tocotrienols. One of the tocotrienols, alpha tocotrienol, I believe, is the one that if you literally have that much in your brain, I'm talking such a super low amount, it's going to open that same process that caused my heart to do a DIY double bypass called autogenesis. That autogenesis process is going to be snapped because you have a lot of collapsed blood vessels in the brain. You have a stroke, a clot, something up there. All of a sudden, that clot is recognized, and that tocotrienol is going to activate the part of the brain that says, open up another blood vessel, and it's going to shunt blood around it. So you're not ending up, you'll still have the stroke, but chances of you having any lasting side effects are next to zero because you never had the blood shut off to that part of the brain to do damage. So there's a lot of things that we can do, but we never know about doing them. There's no one food that has all 8 tocopherols and tocotrienols and vitamin E. You take vitamin E in a pill form, and you're getting, generally speaking, most of the time, an alpha tocopherol, which is a synthetic one, and I'm going to say it's worthless. It's not going to do you any good. There's nothing in that synthetic one that's going to add anything to your health that's of any real value. You might as well go out and buy a bottle where it says mixed tocopherols and tocotrienols, or go ahead and get a better quality vitamin E. But there are things that you can do. A lot of your nuts are really, really good sources of vitamin E. So change your diet a little bit. Maybe I can have a couple of walnuts today, tomorrow a couple of pecans, next day maybe a couple of pistachios. It doesn't take much to get that little extra amount of what your body needs in the body. Would you not agree, Dr. Jacqueline?
Absolutely. I definitely agree with what you're saying. And I hope our audience is taking notes or they'll go back and watch this again because you're giving so much valuable information. And again, we're on the World Jenny's Day Marathon for 2023. We are coming close to the end of this hour. We have about 11 plus minutes left. So what I'd really like us to focus on now is some key takeaways. If somebody's out there and they're feeling blue, they're feeling down, how can we determine if it is something that will likely go away or if it's something that's more serious?
Well, I think part of the problem is how old are you? If you're 10, 11 years old, you may not have too many of those. It depends on how your family life, your school life, your social life. There's so many different things that we have. I'm sure you remember going out for recess and playing and just having a great time. Going out and playing is a major improvement in our emotional wherewithal because we need that exercise. We need that blood flow. We need that oxygen going. But as you get a little bit older, all of a sudden they take recess away from us. We no longer have that. Now they may force you to go in and do some level of calisthenics in the gym, or they may force you to do some kind of sport. But even that's going away where we really don't have that outlet. Now all of a sudden you get in your 20s, maybe you went to school, maybe you didn't, you get yourself a good job. Okay, fine. But I still am not doing any stress management. I may get pissed off because he shouldn't have done that. That wasn't a good thing to do. There are things that happen to us and they've never happened to us before. We don't know how to deal with them. We can't get our arms around. We just suck it up, so to speak. And then all of a sudden we meet that perfect person. We get married. Okay, double, triple, quadruple the stress in your life because now you're a married person. If you happen to can afford a nice home, okay, great. New car, great. Now you have the bills coming in. Now you end up with 1 or 2 or 3 kids. Now you're in your 30s or 40s. All of a sudden, where's the world going? Uh, I missed that opportunity because I couldn't move. We have different stressors, and we have to take a look at what can we do. Now, I mentioned exercise on the front end. Exercise is the go-to thing, but some people can't get off the couch. There's a problem. But that doesn't mean they can't get off the couch to go walk. The getting off the couch to go run is the concept in their brain. But getting off the couch to go walk around the block once or twice or 3 times, those are things that are there. You're sitting there, you're at a desk, and it's been a while. You're hunched over. The deadline's here. You're looking at your clock. Maybe what you need to do is just get up and walk around the entire outside of the building. If you need to go out to the car, say, I need to go out to the car, get some. You walk slowly out to the car, enjoy the fresh air, the sunshine, walk around the car a couple times, come back in. If you have a building with stairs in it, go up 2 or 3 flights of stairs, come down 2 or 3 flights of stairs. Something gets you out of whatever mode that you're in. Get out of that habit of reacting the same way to every single thing that comes in. Now, as you learn, okay, fine, I can smile, I can laugh. And there may be some great entertainment on YouTube that would just perk you up like nobody's business. Music might be another one. There is some wonderful music that can just take you back 20, 30 years if you were really active in that music scene way back then. I can all of a sudden I'm in the car and I'm bouncing like that because there's some song, ba 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 baran, and you're just kind of tuning out to everything else around you. These are things that we as teenagers used to do and never think twice about it. But now you have a family, maybe grandkids. We don't view things the same way, and as such, as if you notice that you're starting to become angry easier, well, is it a dietary problem? B1 and B3 are super easy to get. Get yourself a good B complex vitamin, but make sure that you take your B12 under your tongue because that cobalamin does not survive stomach acid, but it'll go straight into the bloodstream from being under your tongue. So try the B vitamins. Try getting some multi vitamins and minerals into your body. That's not something I recommend to everyone, but if you're kind of on the edge, that might be an indicator. I started these things 2 weeks ago and I'm feeling pretty good right now. That might have been part of the problem because these things don't happen overnight. They usually happen because of consistent whatever situation exists. So if we have the ability to change the situation, even incrementally, maybe that's what I should do. Maybe what I need to do is to get a hobby, to start something at the house, to do something a little bit different. Maybe start reading something there's so many things out there. Dr. Google, Dr. YouTube are just can't believe how much stuff is out there that you can go out and find. And I run into stuff all the time. I was doing research on autophagy and Alzheimer's, and there's a lot of research being done right now that they're thinking if they can get enough stuff cleaned out of the brain, that maybe we can have a really good fight for cutting down dementia because we can get rid of a lot of the trash that's tied up in our brain cells. And so that's a major area that I've been working on since I think about 2017 or so. The guy who came up with autophagy won the Nobel Prize in 2016. Yoshinoro Oshumi, I think is his name. I think he's leading a thing right now where part of that research into autophagy is really focused on dementia and dementia-like diseases. But we need, if you don't have anything else, get yourself an accountability partner, somebody that you can talk to, text, talk on the phone, send an email. We talked earlier about keeping a written journal. Sometimes just having somebody on the other side to listen is of immense value, especially if you're a teenager. My goodness, there's so many things going on in your world. You need to have the good guys in the White Hats that can help you. And they may just be a phone call away or an email away or whatever way.
Excellent points, Red. A couple things I wanted to add. An accountability partner can be a smartwatch. You have one, I have one. And what I was going to share was that when you're on Spotlight, sometimes it takes a second for me to get back because I'm doing arm exercises. So I have my watch programmed and I do arm exercises in between, like an hour, a minute 30. So I can burn up 10 calories for a minute and a half of doing circles and that's something that you can do pretty much anywhere.
No, you can't. You
You
can't.
can't.
No, no. This is too hard to do. No, we can't do that. Even if the commercial's on and I don't like the commercial, I can't do that. No, you're
Are you
pushing.
kidding? Are you serious?
Of course, I'm kidding.
Well, I have weighted hula hoops for my arms, and they're not here. They're in New Jersey, and they weigh about 5 pounds each, and they will help you burn even more calories. I got them during the pandemic, and the company went out of business, and I can't find them anywhere. That's because our upper body is so important, especially our shoulders. When we think about longevity, people don't work their shoulders. And if you've ever been on a plane, which I know you have, and you reach up to put your bag in the overhead bin, you're like, whoa, and people are like, wait, get out of my way. Or you're trying to take the bag down. So we have to work on our shoulder strength. So that actually helps doing these little movements and burns calories too.
I don't think I've ever had that problem.
I don't
But
think you have.
I've seen it.
Yeah, or somebody wants to help you with the bag. I always say, I've got it. I lift weights and I bend my knees and then I use my legs to help lift it and then the shoulders press it up. But that's another show for another day, Red.
Yes, depends on how good they look.
Well, it has been so much fun. I want to put up our World Jenny's Day donation. You can scan this QR code. Please do it and donate whatever it is that you can afford to support World Jenny's Day. Our platform is going to take a break and we will be back at 3 a.m. Eastern Time. I sadly will not be here, but our producer Heather will be here. It's also 8 p.m. British Standard Time. So, Red, what would you like to leave people with today about mental health or anything else, longevity?
Well, first thing what I want to leave them about is the fact that we're the USA Global TV and Radio Network is on YouTube as an archive. Go there, USA Global TV, find the channel, look at the playlist, regardless of what are you doing now? Almost 40 shows a week on that have availability to be shown on that network. Is that right?
Yeah, 41 shows a week we actually have. We don't do them every week because there aren't people booked in every week for all of them.
If this interests you enough, there is so much information out there, whether I have it on my playlist on Talking Heads, or you can find it with some guest. I didn't know that person was on that show. There is, how many shows have you done already, Dr. Jacqueline?
Oh my goodness. At 5,000, I stopped counting.
Okay. That's the number I wanted to hear. So YouTube has a wealth of information. If you happen to look at the YouTube archives for the USA Global TV Radio Network, you're going to find a lot of information. It's not going to be for everyone. We're all different, but there's going to be something there for you. And that is probably the best thing I can leave you with right now.
All right. Thank you for that, Red. When we come back at, let's see, it would be midnight Pacific time, 2 a.m. Central Time, 3 a.m. Eastern Time, and 8 a.m. British Summer Time. Our agenda will be as follows. Janetta Barry will be leading us off, and Heather Joy is our producer. We have 4 acts that are going to be in that hour, and then following that is also a plethora of people performing. And we've had opera singers, Indian dance, we've had orchestra. I mean, we've had so many things already. So please do stay with us. We're taking a break for about 6 hours, and then we'll be back with World Jenny's Day 2023. Red, thank you so much for being here. How can people reach out to you, and who would you like to contact you?
Well, one other thing I forgot was E360 TV network that we are now affiliated with. And so that's another way of catching some of the shows that we do. I'm a book coach, a publisher. I help people in those areas. I'm a speaker. I speak on health and wellness topics, generally anything related to longevity on almost a weekly basis. Easiest way to reach me is my email, red@redolaughlin.com. No, red at redolaughlin.com is my website email, but red.olaughlin@gmail.com is my regular mail that I check quite often. Red, like the color, RED, dot O'Laughlin. It's OLAUGHLIN, O'Laughlin, OLAUGHLIN @gmail.com. Call me on the phone, 281-687-1188. I prefer just the standard old voice communication. Text me, but I don't respond quickly to text. I will get back to you, but email and phone calls are generally the two easiest ways to reach me. And I want to thank you very, very much for asking me to be on the show here with World Jenny's Day, Dr. Jacqueline. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Red. I appreciate you as well. And please do join us. I already gave the times. I'm not giving them again. You can find it on our social media platforms, on YouTube, etc. So we're signing off for now, and we look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Bye, everyone.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.